Have you ever found yourself obsessing over your ex's social media, wondering why they're suddenly acting so strange? One day they're sending you mixed signals, the next they're posting cryptic quotes that sound like secret messages for you. Then comes the radio silence, followed by random likes on your posts, or a late night, "Hey, just teching in" text that leaves you questioning everything. And then, if you just start listening to what they say and without questioning them, then comes the question, "Hey, just questioning everything." It's confusing, emotionally exhausting, and it feels like they're playing some kind of emotional chess game where you're always 2 moves behind. What if I told you that's exactly what's happening? Your ex might not admit it out loud, but there's a high chance they're still emotionally attached and playing sneaky little games to pull you back in. From posting carefully crafted, "I'm so happy without you" selfies to flirting just enough to keep you hooked, or even reaching out through mutual friends just to see how you're coping. Every move is calculated. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 7 psychological games your ex plays when they secretly want you back but won't admit it. Once you spot these patterns, you'll stop feeling powerless and start taking control of your emotions again. Let's break the cycle, starting now. One of the most confusing things people experience after a breakup is when their ex starts acting hot and cold. One minute, they're popping up in your inbox, sending a "Hey, how have you been?" text out of nowhere, liking your Instagram posts, commenting on your story, or even sending a random meme that reminds them of an inside joke you shared. And for a split second, you think, wait, are they trying to reconnect with me? Is this a sign they want me back? But just as quickly as they appear, they disappear again. They stop replying. They go quiet for days, sometimes even weeks. It leaves you hanging, confused, overthinking every little word or emoji they sent, trying to decode what it meant. This inconsistency isn't random. It's not because they're too busy, and it's definitely not because they suddenly forgot about you. In many cases, this kind of behavior is incredibly intentional, even if they don't fully realize it themselves. It's a psychological game they play when they're battling 2 conflicting emotions, the desire to have you back and the fear of admitting it. You see, reaching out gives them a hit of emotional validation. It soothes their ego. They get to test the waters and check if you're still emotionally available to them. The second you respond, whether with excitement, warmth, or even just casual politeness, they get what they came for. That small spark of reassurance that says, "I still matter to you." But here's the thing. They're not reaching out because they're ready to show up differently. They're reaching out to feel wanted again, to see if you'll still play their game. What makes this even more frustrating is that it keeps you emotionally hooked. Because now your brain is on high alert. Every time your phone buzzes, you wonder if it's them. Every time you go online, you check if they've watched your story or liked your post. This inconsistency creates emotional whiplash. And the more unpredictable they are, the more you obsess over when they'll show up next. This is basic human psychology. When rewards are given inconsistently, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, it creates the strongest behavioral conditioning. This is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful ways to keep someone hooked on a cycle. Now, you may be thinking, but what if they're just confused? What if they're genuinely going through a tough time, and that's why they're being inconsistent? And look, that's always possible. People are complex. Feelings after a breakup are messy. But here's the difference. If someone truly wants to build something real with you again, they won't play emotional hide and seek. They won't start conversations just to leave them dangling. They won't check in on you just enough to pull you back emotionally, only to go silent again when you show interest. Someone who's genuinely serious will show consistency. They'll be clear in their communication. They'll want to know how you're doing, not just for their own ego boost, but because they care about your well-being. They'll make plans, follow through, and most importantly, they'll be willing to have the uncomfortable conversations about what went wrong and how things could be different if you were to reconnect. But when your ex is playing this inconsistent communication game, what they're really doing is keeping you as an emotional backup. They want the comfort of knowing you're still there while they avoid doing the hard emotional work of actually stepping up and being vulnerable. And the scary part is, the more you respond to this behavior, the more you teach them that it's okay to treat you this way. You show them that they can disappear for days or weeks and you'll still be there, waiting for crumbs of attention. I know it's tempting to overanalyze every text, to convince yourself that every little interaction means something bigger. But if you want real love, if you want someone who chooses you fully, then you have to set a standard for the kind of communication you're willing to accept. Because the more you engage with inconsistency, the more you tell them that they never have to give you more. So the next time your ex pops up with a "Hey stranger" text or likes your photo after weeks of silence, ask yourself, is this communication leading to something real, or is it just another round of emotional ping pong? It's funny how we tell ourselves we're over someone, how we convince ourselves that we've moved on, that we're living our best life, not looking back, not caring. And yet, when emotions are still lingering, they have a way of leaking out in the most subtle, almost sneaky ways. One of the most common ways an ex does this is through their social media. It becomes their playground, their personal stage for performing a show that's actually meant for an audience of one. You start noticing the shift. Suddenly, they're posting more than usual. They're sharing quotes about heartbreak, about being stronger now, about lessons learned. Some of the posts feel like random emotional outbursts, while others feel strangely pointed, as if they're speaking directly to you without tagging you. Maybe it's a song lyric that you both used to love, or a caption under a photo that reads something like, "Some people never realize what they had until it's gone." And as much as you want to ignore it, as much as you tell yourself not to read into things, you do. Because deep down, it feels like too much of a coincidence. That's the game. They're counting on you noticing. They're hoping you'll be the one sitting there late at night, scrolling through your feed, wondering, was that about me? And if you do react, if you like the post, reply to the story, or reach out to ask how they're doing, they win. They got exactly what they wanted, your attention. But here's the real mind twist. They'll deny it every time. If you were ever brave enough to confront them, to say, "Hey, were you posting that because of me?" They'll laugh it off. They'll say, "God, no, it's just a song I like." Or why would you think that? They'll play innocent, act like you're imagining things, but their timing and the content say otherwise. There's an emotional currency behind every post they make. Every photo, every lyric, every quote, it's all carefully selected for effect. They know you're watching, and even if you're not visibly engaging, they're hoping you're lurking, just like they probably are on your profile. This is their indirect way of communicating with you. They don't have the courage or maybe the emotional readiness to actually call you and say, "I miss you," but they'll breadcrumb you with these tiny emotional signals, hoping you'll pick them up and make the first move. It's passive-aggressive emotional marketing. They're selling you an image of how they want to appear, happy, desirable, thriving, but with just enough vulnerability woven in to make you wonder if they're still hurting too. It's a delicate balance. Too much vulnerability, and they risk looking needy. Too much happiness, and they risk making you believe they've fully moved on. So what do? They craft posts that sit right in the middle, just ambiguous enough to leave you guessing. You might see them posting a photo at a location that was special to both of you, or they'll suddenly become philosophical, writing things like, "Funny how life works out sometimes," followed by an ellipsis, leaving the sentence open-ended so you can fill in the blanks with your own imagination. You might even see them putting up selfies with that extra glow, captioned with something like, "Living my best life." But when you really look at their eyes, there's something missing. That look of peace, of genuine happiness, isn't fully there. This is all a subtle invitation. They want to provoke you emotionally without making themselves vulnerable. They want you to be the one who cracks first. They want you to text them late at night saying, "I saw your post, are you okay?" Or worse, start playing their game by posting things of your own just to get a reaction from them. And if you fall for it, you put the power back in their hands. This is why awareness is so critical. When you recognize these behaviors for what they are, a series of emotional fishing lines, they start to lose their effect. You begin to realize that just because someone is waving flags on social media doesn't mean you have to salute. Their confusion doesn't have to become your confusion. The most powerful thing you can do when your ex starts playing these subtle, manipulative games is to disengage emotionally. See the post, understand the game, and then carry on with your life like it didn't faze you. Let them sit in the discomfort of not knowing whether you even noticed. Because the moment you react, they know they've still got space in your mind. And here's the truth. Someone who genuinely wants you back won't rely on Instagram quotes and cryptic captions. They'll pick up the phone. They'll find their words. They'll show up with real actions, not just carefully curated moments designed to manipulate your emotions from a distance. You know what's interesting about human behavior, especially when it comes to breakup? It's how much people want to know about us without actually speaking to us. It's almost like they want to keep one foot in your life without having to walk through the front door. And one of the sneakiest ways your ex will do this is by going through other people to get information about you. Now, on the surface, it sounds harmless, just a simple, casual question here and there. But when you look a little deeper, you realize it's incredibly calculated. It's not about catching up or being friendly. It's about control. It's about staying emotionally tethered to you without exposing their own vulnerability. They'll say things to your mutual friends like, "Hey, how's she doing?" Or, "Is he seeing anyone these days?" And they'll disguise it with casual interest, like it's just small talk. But it's not small talk. It's intel gathering. It's emotional reconnaissance. What they're really asking is, are you still available? Are you still hurting? Are you still thinking about me? They want to know if their absence is making an impact. If you're struggling without them, if there's still a door open for them to walk back through, should they decide they want to. And here's the part that really messes with you. Because most of the time, you hear about these questions secondhand. A friend casually drops it into conversation. "Oh, by the way, your ex asked about you the other day." And just like that, they've planted a seed in your mind. Now you're left wondering, why are they asking about me? Do they miss me? Do they regret leaving? Are they thinking about coming back? And suddenly, you're replaying old conversations, overanalyzing texts, stalking their social media, looking for signs that they're still emotionally invested, when just a few days ago, you were making progress moving on. This is exactly why they do it. They want you unsettled. They want to know they still have an emotional pull on you without having to put their own feelings on the line. Because reaching out directly would mean risking rejection. It would mean showing their vulnerability. But by using mutual friends, they get the information they want without ever looking weak. And they're clever about it. They won't just ask once. They'll sprinkle these questions over weeks or months, each time making it sound offhand, like it's just part of catching up. But trust me, there's a pattern here. When someone's really moved on, they're not sitting around asking your friends what you're doing on weekends, who you're dating, or how you're feeling post-breakup. Another thing they'll do, they'll make sure these questions get back to you, because believe me, they know how social circles work. They know that word travels. When they ask your best friend how you're doing, they're fully aware that your friend will probably tell you. It's like emotional bait. They're counting on you to hear about it and then wonder about them. What they're really hoping for is that you'll take the hint and reach out first. They want to open a door, but they don't want to be the one to step through it. They're hoping you'll get curious enough, nostalgic enough, or vulnerable enough to break the silence and make the first move. But here's where you have to be strong. Just because they're asking about you doesn't mean they're ready to come back in a healthy, consistent way. It doesn't mean they're ready to give you what you deserve. Sometimes it's just their ego needing a little boost. Sometimes it's boredom. Sometimes it's jealousy creeping in because they sense you're slipping away for real. You have to ask yourself, if they really wanted to come back, if they really valued you, why wouldn't they come to you directly? Why hide behind friends? Why play these indirect games? Because someone who genuinely wants to reconnect in a meaningful way won't need to tiptoe around it. They'll be brave enough to face you, to apologize if needed, and to have an honest conversation about where things stand. So when you hear that your ex has been asking about you, take a deep breath. Don't let it throw you off course. Don't let it pull you back into a story that's not serving you. If they want to know how you are, they know exactly where to find you. Do you ever notice how, out of nowhere, your ex suddenly brings up some random inside joke or memory the two of you shared? Maybe it's a silly moment from a holiday trip you took together, or a little joke you used to say when something awkward happened. Or maybe it's as simple as them texting you something like, "Hey, remember that time we got caught in the rain and ended up laughing like idiots for half an hour?" On the surface, it seems harmless, right? Just two people reminiscing. But if you look closer, there's usually a much deeper intention behind it. When someone brings up specific shared memories, they're not just being sentimental. They're anchoring you emotionally. They're taking you back to a time when the two of you were connected, laughing, close, happy. It's like they're lighting a tiny emotional spark, hoping you'll feel that same warmth again. And often they're doing it without fully admitting to themselves or to you that they're missing what you had. It's a clever emotional game because it's low risk for them. Think about it. If you don't respond well, they can easily brush it off. They can act like they were just being friendly, just joking around, no big deal. But if you do respond with enthusiasm or a flood of happy emojis, now they know they've still got a little piece of your heart. They've opened the door just enough to see if you're still emotionally available. And it's not always as direct as a text. Sometimes it shows up in a conversation when you bump into them. Or maybe they're talking to a mutual friend and suddenly drop a story about you both. Like, "Oh yeah, that reminds me of the time we did XYZ. Good times." And they'll say it with that nostalgic little smile, as if they're casually strolling down memory lane. But make no mistake, this is not casual. This is strategic. What makes this tactic so sneaky is that it plays on your brain's natural wiring. When we recall shared experiences, especially emotionally charged ones, our brain doesn't just remember them like a cold fact. It relives them. We feel them again. The laughter, the connection, the sense of closeness. It all comes rushing back. And suddenly you find yourself thinking, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe we still have something here. Maybe we still have something here. That's exactly the response they're fishing for. And here's the other layer to it. They're testing the waters. They want to know if you're still emotionally accessible, if you're still vulnerable to them. Are you still willing to go back down memory lane with them? Are you still open to interaction? Are you going to reciprocate? Because if you are, they now have the upper hand. They get to feel desired, wanted, missed, without ever risking their own ego by admitting they're missing you. And let's not overlook the timing of these moments. It's rarely random. They don't just wake up one morning and think about that one sunset walk you took together 6 months ago. No, these moments tend to surface right when they've noticed you pulling away. Maybe you've gone quiet on social media. Maybe you've stopped liking their posts. Or maybe they heard through a friend that you're starting to move on. That's when the "do you remember when" texts start appearing. It's not a coincidence. It's a calculated emotional pull. What makes this really tough is that it feels good in the moment. Let's be honest. Who doesn't love being remembered? Who doesn't love hearing that someone else is thinking about that special day you thought had been long forgotten? It tugs on your heartstrings. It makes you feel significant again. But here's where you need to stop and breathe. Just because someone misses a moment doesn't mean they're ready to show up for you today. Nostalgia is powerful, but it doesn't fix the problems that broke the relationship in the first place. If you're not careful, this kind of emotional baiting can drag you right back into an unhealthy cycle. You'll start replaying all the good memories in your head, conveniently forgetting the nights you cried yourself to sleep, or the endless fights, or the way they made you feel unseen. Suddenly, you're responding to their messages with that same old energy, giving them the validation they crave, and just like that, you're back on their emotional hook. So, when you get that random text or hear from a friend that your ex was talking about the good old days, pause for a second. Before, ask yourself, are they reaching out because they genuinely want to build something new with me? Or are they just craving the emotional safety net of knowing I'm still here, still missing them, still emotionally available whenever they want attention? Because the truth is, someone who truly wants you back will do more than trigger your memories. They'll take responsibility. They'll communicate clearly. They'll show consistent effort. Anything less is just a game. You ever notice how some people just know how to keep you emotionally dangling? Like they're experts at giving you just enough to stay hooked, but never enough to feel secure. When your ex secretly wants you back, but doesn't want to admit it, this is one of their favorite games. They flirt just enough to stir something in you, but when it comes to actually following through, they disappear into thin air. It starts small. Maybe they reply to one of your Instagram stories with a cheeky comment, or send a random text late at night like, "Hey, remember that time we stayed up till 3 a.m.ing laughing about nothing?" It feels playful, light, but also loaded. And the second you engage, maybe you laugh back, maybe you ask how they're doing, they pull away again. They won't keep the conversation going. They won't ask to meet. They won't show up in any real, consistent way. You're left sitting there, staring at your phone, wondering what that little interaction even meant. Were they thinking about you? Was it a mistake? Did it mean they miss you? Or were they just bored? And here's the sneaky part. They know exactly what they're doing. This isn't accidental. It's not random. It's calculated emotional bait. When someone flirts with you but doesn't back it up with real action, they're trying to stir up your feelings without putting themselves in a vulnerable position. They don't want to risk rejection. They don't want to look like they're chasing you. So instead, they poke at you emotionally, just enough to keep them on your mind. They want to see if they still have access to your heart, if you'll still reply, if you're still emotionally available to them. It's a power move dressed up as harmless fun. And here's the worst part. Every time they do it and you engage, they get their answer. They get the reassurance they were looking for. Yep, she still wants me. Or yep, he's still there if I ever want him. Meanwhile, you're left overanalyzing every word, every emoji, every pause between messages. You might tell yourself, oh, it's progress. At least we're talking again. Or maybe this means something's changing. But it's not progress. It's a loop. It's the same pattern repeating. The truth is, if they really wanted you back, they wouldn't be playing in the shallow end like this. They'd dive in. They'd make it clear. They'd pick up the phone, ask to see you, sit down and say, look, I've been thinking. I made a mistake. I miss you. But that's scary for them. Owning their feelings, risking rejection. It's easier for them to play this half-in, half-out game where they get the emotional payoff without taking any real risk. And let's be honest, part of the reason they do it is because it works. Because the second they send that one flirty text or like that old photo or drop that inside joke, your heart does this little jump. You smile. You wonder. You replay the conversation. You ask your friends, what do you think this means? And suddenly they're back in your head, rent-free. So how do you break this cycle? By recognizing it for what it is, by refusing to be the person who gets breadcrumbs and treats them like a meal. If they're not showing up consistently, if they're not making real plans, if they're not taking responsibility for their feelings, then their flirtation means nothing. It's noise. It's background static. It's a game designed to keep you right where they want you, emotionally unsettled, questioning yourself, and waiting for more. You deserve more. You deserve clarity. You deserve someone who doesn't play with your emotions for sport. The next time they send that cute little message or drop that half-hearted compliment, ask yourself, are they following it up with real action? Are they stepping up? Are they making space for you in their life in a meaningful way? If the answer is no, then that message, that flirty text, that late night DM, it's not a sign of progress. It's just another move in their game. You know, one of the most predictable but emotionally triggering games an ex will play when they secretly want you back, but won't dare admit it, is this whole, look how happy I am without you performance. It's almost like they've suddenly become the happiest, most fulfilled, most social person on the planet the second you two broke up. Scroll through their social media, and there it is, the endless stream of gym selfies, the new friends you've never heard of, the spontaneous road trips, the smiling group shots at brunch with captions like, living my best life, or surround yourself with people who matter. It's like they're going through a midlife crisis, but with filters and hashtags. But here's the thing most people miss. When someone is genuinely happy and content with their life post-breakup, they don't usually feel the need to broadcast it like it's a full-time job. They're too busy actually living that life. They're not sitting there plotting the perfect angle for their next story or making sure they tag the right people so it looks like they're moving on with style. They're just moving on quietly, authentically, peacefully. When your ex is pushing this highlight reel version of their life out into the world at full volume, it's often because they want exactly one person to notice: you. They want you to feel something: regret, jealousy, sadness, FOMO, anything that makes you reach for your phone and text them, or at least stalk their profile late at night so they can sit there watching their story views and knowing you're still paying attention. It's this passive, aggressive power play where they're too proud or too scared to admit they miss you, but not too proud to play these games that are clearly designed to get a reaction. And let's be honest, it works. Because you see those posts, and suddenly your mind goes into overdrive. You start asking yourself, were they this happy with me? Or have they really moved on that fast? Or the classic, did I make a huge mistake letting them go? And then what happens? You spiral. You reread old texts. You start wondering if you should like one of their posts just to show you're cool with it. Or worse, you think about reaching out just to test the waters. And that's exactly the trap they want you to fall into. Because here's what's actually going on beneath all that curated happiness. They're hurting. They're confused. They're missing you. But their ego is too big, or their fear of rejection too strong to say it outright. So instead of risking vulnerability, they go for performance. They turn their healing process into a show. A public spectacle where every smiling photo, every night out, every overly philosophical caption is a subtle cry for your attention. But what makes this game even more sneaky is that if you call them out on it, they'll deny it to the ends of the earth. If you say, hey, seems like you're posting a lot lately, they'll say, what? I'm just having fun. Or if you ask, are you doing all this to get my attention? They'll hit you with, wow, someone's a little self-centered. It's the perfect defense mechanism. They get to keep playing the game while making you feel crazy for noticing it. And let's not forget the emotional whiplash this creates. 1 minute, you're questioning whether they've actually outgrown the relationship, and the next, you're wondering if they're secretly still in love with you. That push-pull dynamic feeds right into their plan. They want you on edge. They want you second-guessing yourself. Because the longer you stay emotionally tied to them, even in confusion, the more control they still have over your heart. The most dangerous part of all this, it can make you forget the reasons why the breakup happened in the first place. All you see now is this attractive, vibrant, happy version of them that's been carefully edited for your consumption. And if they've offered you the perfect prospect, you may find yourself trapped by this hype and the background hype that feeds everything they've built up. The emotional distance, the unmet needs. Because right now, all your brain registers is, they're thriving without me. Maybe I was the problem. And when that thought creeps in, you're at your most vulnerable. So what do you do when you recognize this game? You stop playing. You step back and remind yourself their healing journey, or their lack of it, is not your responsibility. Their performance isn't a reflection of your worth. You don't need to jump back in just because they've triggered your insecurities. Remember, real happiness is quiet. Real growth doesn't need an audience. And if they truly wanted to fix things with you, they wouldn't be playing games in the first place.